Good morning, Mzansi. Welcome to another episode of Health for Mzansi. I'm your host, Duncan Masiwa, for this episode powered by Momentum Health. Now, in this episode, we take a closer look at the Momentum Multiplier program and dive deep into the interconnectedness of the brain, the body, and lifestyle with two inspiring experts. Damian McHugh, the Chief Marketing Officer at Momentum Health, highlights the importance of maintaining your health as your greatest asset and how their innovative multiplier program helps members make lasting positive changes. We're also joined by Dr Kirti Ranchod, neurologist and founder of Memorability, who shares her expertise on brain health and memory improvement, discussing the difference between brain health and mental health, and as well as why treating underlying conditions matters for long-term well-being. Damian, Dr. Kirti, welcome to the Health for Mzansi podcast. I want to throw this question to both of you, and Damian, maybe I'll start with you. Across South Africa, people are carrying so much, whether it's stress, uncertainty, grief, financial pressure, and yet they're still trying to show up for their families, their work, and even their communities. In your life and work, how do you personally define complete health and well-being, not just in theory, but in a way that really speaks to real everyday struggles and hopes of so many South Africans?
It's a great question. I think there's a multiple number of answers that you can use when talking about that. I think for me, we often, particularly in sort of the medical scheme health insurance industry, talk about health as physical. And we forget that our body is a lot more than just a physical body. And so we often engage in the running and the gym and those elements, which are the physical aspect of healthcare, but it's definitely not total health. And the total aspect of our body includes our spiritual well-being, includes our mental well-being. So our total well-being and total health is the ability to engage in all three of those spheres. Our mental well-being is actually probably the core of it, to be honest. You can be physically well and not mentally well, and you'll find physical illness start to manifest in your body. So for me, it's all three of those aspects, spiritual and mental.
Very interesting question, particularly when you think about what health means for you in particular, given that this is the work that I'm doing. But I think the way I think about health is that health is harmony. So harmony, like Damian was referring to, in terms of these different parts, in terms of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Harmony internal, our internal physiological processes, and then our external processes. Harmony with our environment, harmony in our relationships, harmony with our spiritual processes. And I think that's the definition I'd go with.
Maybe staying with you, Dr. Kirti, what is brain health versus mental health and mental illness, and how does this affect overall health?
They are related. So brain health and mental health are in part related, but brain health would be an overall term. So the way brain health has been conceptualized, it looks at three different aspects. It looks at illness that can affect the brain, and that can include mental illness like depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar, but it also includes other illnesses such as stroke, Parkinson's disease, migraine. So very, very broad. And then within that, it looks at what can we do to prevent illness? What can we do to reduce severity of illness? What can we do to support people who are living with these illnesses, and so that they live healthy, happy, meaningful lives, even if they have an illness, right? And the second part, which is quite critical, looks at the brain and how to support better brain function, improve brain performance, really train the brain in specific ways so that we again make those healthy choices in a way. So mental health would look specifically in terms of emotional well-being from a point of anxiety, depression, and the risk factors leading to that. And mental illness obviously is very specifically referring to illness and what that can. But mental health and mental illness often do get used interchangeably.
Dr. Kirti, for you, Damian talks about total well-being or total health. How do you define it?
For me also, I think one of the other aspects, and I think Dr. Kirti's touched on it, is the absence of disease doesn't make you healthy. And maybe often used an analogy before is, when you wake up in the morning and you haven't twisted your ankle, you don't think of your ankle being healthy. You know what I mean? You have to actually engage in both mental and physical attributes to become healthy. Health is as much a state of well-being as illness has a state of sickness in your body. So, and as Dr. Kirti was saying, activate aspects of mental well-being. It's the same way as you'll go do exercise for physical well-being. There are things you can do to help you with mental well-being. If you aren't doing those things, doesn't mean you're mentally well. It just means you're mentally not sick or you're physically not ill. The absence of the one doesn't mean the other. It's not I'm not sick, therefore I'm healthy. I'm not sick, therefore I'm not sick. I can do things to make me healthier, right? So in terms of some of the statistics that we're seeing the rise of mental illness in South Africa, things like depression and so on, the things that we can measure, increasing quite rapidly. Now, some stats have been taken recently, I guess in the last 2 or 3 years, around the cost of what these illnesses are costing South Africa. And we spend more on mental illness in South Africa than what our tourism industry is worth. Now, that's in hundreds of millions of rands, right? So just to kind of put it in a context, in our medical schemes, we see the number of people presenting with mental illness increasing rapidly. And the utilization of mental health related benefits is up almost 20%, 18.3% almost annually. And that's quite a challenge if you think about what that means. And I think a lot of people post-COVID particularly became more aware of the challenges that they're facing with their mental health and mental illness. And as a result of that, we are seeing the rate of suicide more. And there's some crazy numbers around the number of people that are trying to commit suicide. And we know that for all of those that we know about, there's probably another 40 or 50 every single month that are actually attempting it. So if you go into those numbers around people committing suicide, it's really quite sad to see those numbers are increasing more and more rapidly. It's up to us as healthcare practitioners and healthcare provision or funding provisioners that we start helping people understand what the causes are and how we can help them prevent them, but also at the right time give them access to finance, that when they need access to a specialist or a doctor or a hospital or psychologist or whatever, that they have access in their benefits to be able to access that so they can get professional people to help them. So absolutely, numbers are increasing rapidly, and it's something that we as a country and an industry need to help members understand and know what they can do to help it.
Dr. Kirti, we are hearing more and more about the importance of taking care of our minds, not just our bodies. But for many South Africans, there's still confusion, even stigma around terms like brain health, mental health, and mental illness. In a country where so many people are silently struggling, can you help us unpack the difference between these three concepts, and how does each one play a role in shaping our overall health and ability to live a full, balanced life?
One of the most practical ways to illustrate this is the role of exercise. So we know exercise keeps us healthy. We know it keeps our heart healthy. And the message with regard to exercise and heart health has been really good and strong and, many years in the making. But exercise also keeps the brain healthy, and in more ways than we understand. So before I started doing this, I assumed, well, your heart is healthy, your brain will be healthy, arteries are healthy, therefore. But what exercise actually does is it switches on a specific gene. So we are born with a set of genes, and some of these can be switched on or off depending on certain activities. And this field of study is called epigenetics. So what happens when we exercise, a specific gene is switched on. That gene actually codes for a neurochemical called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is just a brain growth factor. And it acts on the memory and mood part of the brain. So exercise directly changes what is happening in your brain by a very complicated mechanism. And so exercise physically changes the brain and then changes your risk of depression, of anxiety, of cognitive problems. So it's quite profound. So that's the link between the physical and the mental. And obviously it can work the other way as well.
Dr. Kirti, that's quite profound. We've always known that exercise is good for the heart, but I suppose what many of us don't realize is that it's also great for the brain. If I listen to what it is that you're saying, exercise doesn't just help your body stay strong, but it also helps your mind stay sharp and emotionally balanced too. Of course, momentum encourages us to know our health better. Dr. Kirti, share some of the common misconceptions that people have about mental and physical health.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have to wait to be ill to start doing something. And I think that if we can change this, if we can start showing how valuable health promotion is. So health promotion is even the step before prevention of any illness. It's saying, I'm going to stay healthy. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to choose the right food. I'm going to spend time with people I love. So I'm going to have healthy habits. but I'm also going to understand specific ways that I can keep myself or train my brain in very specific ways to keep this brain functioning optimally. And so I think really for me, that is the biggest myth, that we have to wait and we only take it seriously when we have a problem. If we intervene a step before, we lose opportunities because of illness. As Damian was saying, it has a huge impact in terms of economy, in terms of illness. So we save so much, but even from a personal point of view, we save so much by starting to invest in our health at an earlier point.
It was definitely a friend of mine and I were talking the other day about how being sick is such an inconvenience because you often cannot get to the things that are important to you. And that's why it's important to know your health. Damian, from what Dr. Kirti said, what does this mean then for healthcare?
I can't agree with Dr. Kirti more. Often people only make a change, what we call often as a burning platform. When your platform's burning, then I look for something else. And it often happens in healthcare as well. I'm in hospital with a heart attack. Now I'm prepared to make a change to the way I eat or smoke or drink alcohol. If we could stop that before, then, the whole outcome would be significantly better and you wouldn't have to be in hospital. So the ability for us to help members, nudge members, engage with members before they get ill enables us to have a member who's much healthier in the longer term. We often think about our retirement. Not all of us do, I think, but when we're young, Duncan, I'm a little bit older than you, but you're younger than me, right? So if you start investing now for your retirement, the chances that you will retire better will be much better than me if I only start invested in my age now. And that's the same with healthcare. If you start earlier investing in your healthcare, your outcomes when you retire will be also better. So why don't we put money away, if I can use that term, put health away and invest in that in a daily basis by eating better, sleeping better, engaging with people, be connected, rest. All of those elements help you live a healthier life. And then when you retire, you're not just retiring with some money, you're also retiring with the ability to use that money in a positive way, traveling and so on. Can you imagine retiring with money and you can't walk and you can't move and you can only stay in your bed? What a terrible outcome, right? It's about investing in your healthcare over a long period of time in the same way. So we've developed some tools which try and help members where they are particularly. So it's not about all of us need to be the best gym going member and running marathons. Start from where you are today. And again, Dr. Kirti mentioned that a little bit earlier, is start where you are and start making those small improvements every single day. It's those small nudges creating the positive behaviors, which will ultimately have a really, really big impact later on in your life and probably a lot sooner, right? You'll start to feel better mentally. You'll start to feel better physically. You'll probably not get as sick as often, which is an inconvenience. You'll, not end up in hospital as often. You'll spend less money on healthcare. Just think about your medical scheme premium, how much that is of your monthly bill. Now imagine if you got healthier and you're able to downgrade your premium because you don't need as much benefit as you have. Your health genuinely is your wealth. You can actually start to use your health and leverage your health as an asset. You can make big changes in your life financially and well-being. And also later on in your life, you'll be able to do the cool things, not just with your kids, but with your grandkids, and hopefully live long enough to be able to see your great-great-grandkids and throw balls with them in the garden because you're physically able to do so. It would be terrible for me. Have a why. Maybe that's the thing. Have a why of why you want to do it. And my why, as an example, is I want to be able to play golf or cricket or soccer in the garden with my grandkids. And that why drives me to think about what am I doing and the choices that I'm making today. So have a reason why you're doing it. I think have a purpose maybe of why you're engaging with your health.
I love that. Why should I take my health more seriously? Why should I make better health choices as well? Definitely, Damian. Many people think that they are generally healthy, Dr. Kirti. Can you share maybe 3 small lifestyle changes that can have a big impact on stress reduction?
The way to look at stress reduction is to consider firstly the habits that causing you increased stress. So poor sleep, not spending enough time with people you love. I mean, what a simple thing for me to have to say that you need to spend time with people you love, right? And eating a correct diet. So diets high in saturated fat and high in refined sugar are particularly bad for the brain and particularly bad for mental health outcomes. The more fresh fruit and vegetables you have and healthy grains, healthy fats, the healthier your brain becomes. So that becomes quite important, again, as Damian mentioned, avoiding brain toxins, smoking, alcohol, and drugs as far as possible. So this becomes quite important in terms of habits. Then the second aspect is the world is exceptionally stressful currently, right? This is the reality of it. Stress is actually a response designed to protect us. So So it's not an unnatural response, but what happens is we have too much stresses and our brain has now shifted into a hyper-stressed state in a sense. So we need to consciously now shift from a stress state to a calm state. And we can train the brain with specific activities or experiences to help with that. The most common one known is mindfulness, but it's not the only activity. So you need to also be aware of what helps you to de-stress in a healthy way. So not related to drugs, not related to alcohol. What helps you to de-stress in a healthy way? Activities like mindfulness, like activity, like art and creativity or music. And start incorporating that into your plan to train your brain.
Most definitely. It's always so heartbreaking to see and hear how many South Africans are silently battling with their mental health. Damian, can you share any insights from what you are seeing with your members?
No, we do. I mean, almost 1 in 10 people now struggle with depression or anxiety and stress-related illnesses like that. So we see an increase, as I said, shared earlier, of the number of people with depression and so on. So what we're trying to help our members with is understanding exactly what Dr. Kirti said. Start on your journey and how do we help partner with them where they are at. So it's not, as I said earlier, having the same program for everybody. The healthcare outcomes need to be uniquely designed for where people are individually, both in themselves and in their families. And what we see is as we start to help people make those small changes in their life, we start to see them enjoying their newfound freshness, their newfound energy. They become more productive, not just in their work-related spheres, but also in their personal-related spheres. When we say, Dr. Kirti says, it's sad that we have to tell people to spend more time with people that they love. But when people become healthier, they become more positive with those people around them. More people want to hang around you. You become a more positive influence. And it's an old adage of that butterfly effect. Like if a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the world, it creates a storm on the other. Well, you can use that both positively and negatively. And as we start to see helping our members in a positive context, we start to see their whole life begins to change. Health is almost the absolute cornerstone, bedrock, foundation of all of your well-being. And so, the programs that we have, which help members both save money, but also help them invest in their healthcare in a positive way, we're able to nudge them in the right direction. We're starting to see a lot of our members engaging in the program that, that we design with them and for them, and their outcomes are starting to become better. And it's not snowball, like, it happens a little bit at a time and it snowballs over time. So it's not a big snowman immediately, but we're building your snowman almost one snowflake at a time. Some people want it faster and they engage in it quicker. Other people do it slower. Other people only wait for the burning platform, the big event to happen before they make a change. And I guess each person is a little different. We're trying to help people to engage in that in their health long before it ends up in a catastrophic health event. And we're beginning to see the positive impacts of that. So the members on our Multiply program, as an example, are claiming between 15 and 20% less than people who aren't on the program. So we're beginning to see that if they start to engage in the program meaningfully, as Dr. Kirti has indicated, that the actual claiming pattern becomes less. And that's what we want. We want them to be healthier. And then also, think about it, their benefits last longer, their savings accounts are bigger, they don't have to spend as much money. And so their wellness, the actual financial wellness also improves. So it really is a positive knock-on effect, and we're beginning to see that effect inside the solutions that we offer our members.
Most definitely. And almost brings me to my next question. Motivation is often the missing link between knowledge and action. Many people know what they should be doing to improve their health, whether it's eating better, more sleep, manage stress. But taking that first step, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed or emotionally drained, Dr. Kirti, can sometimes feel very impossible. What advice do you have for those struggling with motivation to make healthier choices?
I think to start small and to start where you're at, I think Damian and I are on the same page without having rehearsed this. But to start small and start where you're at. If you're going to start exercising, start at 5 minutes. If you're already running 30 minutes, you can increase it. But if you haven't started 5 to 10 minutes a day, and I'm just giving exercise as the example. So start where you're at, start small and make it at a time that is convenient for you. And then it is really important to understand your why, develop your motivation. So when you exercise, do it with awareness. How does this help you? How do you feel? What are the outcomes that you're hoping to achieve? And then it is slow, steady persistence. So doing it even when you're not motivated. You're still going to get up and you're still going to say, I'm going to do this, even if I'm not motivated. Because again, it is, just mirroring what Damian said, but the benefits are long-term. You're not going to see the benefits in 3 days. And so that's why motivation becomes harder, right? It's not that I go to store, I buy an ice cream, I get instant joy. I have to persist and I have to look at something so intangible in the future, but understand that I am going to get there. That's the one thing. The second thing is also, if you skip a few days, to just understand you need to be consistent over a long period of time. So even if you miss a week, you go back, you start again. You're looking at consistency over years, and that's what you're building towards. Consistency, practice, discipline.
Consistency, practice, and discipline. Damian, just off the back of what Dr. Kirti just mentioned, what are trends that you are seeing from Momentum Multiply members in their behaviors towards their health and well-being? And what are some of the insight that you are seeing from members in terms of the approach that they are taking in managing their health and their well-being?
I said a little bit earlier that we've begun to see that the members that are using our Multiply program, let me just maybe explain that it's an incentivized wellness program that you buy next to your medical scheme benefits. So for those listeners who aren't aware of what our program does, it's not a loyalty program. It's not designed to reward you if you've got multiple Momentum products. It's an incentivized wellness program. So what we do here is we try and help members understand where their health is. So there are very simple, using your phone. You just literally hold your phone up to your face and you scan your face. Technology gives us a view of what your blood pressure looks like, what your heart rate is, and so on. So very quickly, we're able to tell a member, without them having to go see a doctor or buy a kinetist, kind of where they are on their own health continuum. The first part is know your health. And so, through the app, very, very simple. It takes a few minutes. And you can also answer a few questions. So we ask you about your height and your weight and a few of those things. Do you smoke? Do you drink? All of the normal things. So we give members a very good understanding about where they currently are. And I think that's a good starting point. If you know you're sick or you know you're a bit unhealthy, you need to know that up front. Some of the diseases that we have are silent, right? So high blood pressure, you don't actually know you have it until something actually really happens. So we try and help members. We pick up anything there. We ask them now to go and see a provider where they can then get treated. But generally speaking, what happens is the members can then get rewarded for doing the right behavior steps. As Dr. Kirti said, we try and engage them in their own specific journey and helping and nudge them in that particular journey. So if Damian's already a marathon runner, well, Damian, are you exercising 5 times a week or twice a week or once a week? But someone might be not a runner at all, but they want to run. Okay, so now you kind of run a kilometer, but you walk 200 meters, run 800. Next day, walk 200, run 800. And as Dr. Kirti says, you kind of do this in small little increments. And as we have seen now, there's people who respond to the carrot, right? And that's what this is. It's an incentivized wellness program. So we're providing incentives sometimes in money, sometimes in sort of like a weekly win, where if you do your 3 exercises this week, the next week you must try and do 4, and the following week you try and do 5. So we help them, encourage them along the way, when they can get vouchers that they can redeem. They get benefits related to healthcare that they can get discounts at certain of our partners. But the big one is we actually pay our members what we call health returns. And we use that term specifically, where they can actually earn real money. And that real money we pay back into their savings accounts within the medical scheme. So you actually start using your health, as I said a little bit earlier, as an asset. You allow your money to build up because you are being healthier. And what we allow with that money is you can pay your premiums with it. So think about it. Now I'm earning free money, and that money can actually pay my healthcare premium. You legitimately are using your health almost as a premium gatherer. And so those types of incentives are what we do. And we see people who are starting to engage in the program begin to understand it, start on the journey, just scan first. Oh, okay, I know that I'm not healthy. Let me go to my doctor. The doctor helps them, or bio helps them, or physio helps them, or I am healthy, or I don't have sickness. How do I become healthier? And then we say, well, start running, doing this, set yourself goals. There's leaderboards, all sorts of things that engage people and create the challenge. And as I said earlier, the people that are engaging in this program, we are seeing healthier outcomes. We're seeing lower claims over time. We're seeing a more engaged member, a more loving member, probably in their family setup as well. So really positive outcomes that we're seeing around members. And it takes a bit of time to get used to, because we're having to set up new habits and new journeys for us. And that's why I think the why you're doing it becomes the important part. Now, some people will respond, well, why? I need the money. Okay, fair enough. That's a good why. When you earn money then and your salary gets an increase, do you stop doing healthcare? So I think sometimes that's a short-term one. As I said, we've got some few interesting people who share their own individual whys. And, I'm going to share a football one, if you don't mind. One of the people that I know was chatting about their why. Dr. Michael Mole, many of you will know him, was chatting to one of his people who attended one of his conferences, of asking about the why. And the person said, my why is I was tired of buying my favorite soccer jersey in triple XL. It was costing me 3 times the amount of money as what it would be if I was just buying a large. And I don't want to mention that soccer team because it's not one I like or I support, but I'll I'll refrain from using the word Manchester United. So he then decided that he wants to fit into a smaller jersey. And he set himself a target that in 2 years' time, he wanted to drop 2 of those sizes and just be an extra large. And I think he got down to a large in the end. But that was his why. He had a clear why of what he wanted to do. You almost make him feel better and save a bit of money in buying his favorite soccer team jersey every year. But that why must motivate you to get up in the morning when you don't feel like it. Dr. Kirti was saying, there's days when you just don't feel like getting up and exercising, or as we are having weather at the moment in Gauteng, it's rainy and it's cold and you don't want to go outside. And what's your why? And that why will keep you motivated to do what you do. But definitely if you do it, the outcomes are unbelievably positive, both mentally and physically.
Damian, this conversation has been quite eye-opening. We've been reminded that true health goes beyond the absence of illness. It's about complete well-being of the body, the mind, as Dr. Kirti mentioned, and the brain, of course. And like you mentioned, the importance of having a why. Closing question, Dr. Kirti, and then I'll come back to you, Damian. What's one piece of advice you wish everyone knew about health? If someone could take away just one lesson from this conversation that we are having, what should it be?
I think given the current crisis that we are having with regard to mental illness and stress and the impact that it's having in all our spheres, professional and personal, I think the advice I want to give is that you can train your brain. And you can train your brain with specific activities or with the habits you choose. And that training physically changes the brain. So anything is within your potential. You don't have to limit yourself to say, this is the way I've always done it. Oh, I have this, or my family has this. There's always the possibility, depending on how you choose, what you do, that shifts the way your brain functions.
Damian, for you, one piece of advice you wish everyone knew about health?
That it's your most important asset. It's more important than all the investments you have, the car you drive, the house you have, all the money you earned. You'd give all of that up if your health went away. So your health is your most important asset. Protect it. So insure it properly and protect it through doing what Dr. Kirti is saying is take care of your health. Don't just think medicine can help you. You can actually make a change in the way it is. So your health is your most important asset.
Well, there you have it, listeners. Damian McHugh, Chief Marketing Officer at Momentum Health, joined by Dr. Kirti Ranchod, neurologist and founder of Memorability. You can, of course, read more on this topic by visiting www.healthfromzansi.co.za. Bye for now, and until next time, be safe and stay healthy.